All right, I'm going to kick it off with a little recognition real quick here. So these are the coaches that have already hit Success Club 10 for the month. So with 10, we got Christy King, Valerie Nelson, Celine Bacardi, Claire Barboni, Chelsea Holes, Jill Wagner, and myself. With 12, we got Liz Deruda and Casey McFadden. We also got Aaron Campman, Beth McDonald, Keefe Reed, Brooke Reed, and Mary Beth Darling. With 13, we got Caroline Nathan. With 14, we got Danielle Hills and Marie Sardelli and Amy Reelman. With 16, Emily Crushore and Chris Bachlet. With 18, we got Carrie Steelman-Schmidt. With 20, we got Cassandra Schmelzinger. With 22, we got Anne-Marie Vickers. With 26, we got Amy Morgan. And with 34 Success Club points already this month, we got Ashley Fell Dyson, killing it. All right, one more recognition here. So here's your weak leg team volume for last week. These are the coaches that had over 300 team volume points on their weak leg. We got Sam Gelfo, Sarah Olinsky, Jordan Davis, Sydney Freeman, Alyssa DeBee, Ali Pendich, Brittany Dimmick, Jill Wagner, Maddie Fenton, Laura Basil, Jennifer Conroy, Nicole Felvey, Suzanne Reyes, Stephanie Weaver, Josh Morgan, George Davies, Lauren Christie Fravel, Anne-Marie Vickers, Ashley Coyne, Emily Bachlet, Brooke Reed, and Emily Crushore, just shy of 500. And then in the 500 club with over 500 team volume points in their weak leg, we got Kelly Marks, Craig Schmidt, Carrie Steelman-Schmidt, Dave Yakel, Beth McDonald, Tyler Smith, Melissa Virgil, Tim Ottaway, Mike Bachlet, Margaret Macker, Danielle Hills, Gage Eckert, Chris Bachlet, Joe Policino, and Nicoletta Sidowitz with over 1,000 team volume points in their weak leg. We got Brittany Miller, Nancy Nathan, Amy Reelman, second business center, Shauna Valenta, Caroline Nathan, Wade Kephart, Stacy Slade, Marie Sardelli, a third business center, Pete Reelman, Ashley Fell Dyson, and Charles Wallace with over 2,000. We got Robert Rodriguez. In the 3,000 club, we got Terry Logan. We got Alyssa Sardelli and Amy Morgan. With over 5,000, we got my second business center, Michelle Phillips, Amy Reelman, and Andrea Wallace. And in the 10,000 club, we have Beth Reelman and myself. Okay, so that's the recognition for the week. I see a couple more people hopping on here. So today, we have a very special guest speaker, Isabelle Daikeler. So if you guys don't know, Isabelle is the co-creator of Shakeology. She's also married to Beachbody CEO and co-founder Carl Daikeler. So I don't really know a lot more about Isabelle, but I'm really excited to learn more. We got to hear her speak a little bit in Punta Cana, and she shared a little bit about her background, some of the chronic fatigue that she dealt with and some of the things she was doing to kind of get through that, and kind of how that ultimately led to the creation of Shakeology. So we're really excited to have you on here. If you guys have any questions for her as you go along, throw it in the chat and we can try to get to it at the end if we have time. But Isabelle, we're really excited to have you on here, and would love to have you maybe just share a little bit about kind of what you talked about in Punta Cana, a little bit about your background and some of the things you dealt with, some of the things you the research you did, and self-diagnosing, and then how that kind of led to the creation of Shakeology. Let me see. Hold on one sec. I'm going to unmute you if I can find you here.
I did it.
Oh, perfect. Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for getting on. We're really excited to have you.
Thank you for having me. So you want me to sort of talk about what I shared at Punta Cana, correct?
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Okay. Well, my background way before Carl was mostly track and field, rehabilitation, sports psychology, sport nutrition, and active rehabilitation. And that came about because of physical challenges. I had a pretty terrible car crash and had to rehabilitate myself and learn to walk again, and was told, like so many, that I would be limping for the rest of my life. And that really led me into a field that I didn't think I'd be into so intensely. Needless to say, I did. I rehabilitated myself. I learned so much through it. And of course, it led me to nutrition. As I got into that area of my life back in those days, I started being more and more tired, having aches and pain that nobody could speak to or help me with. It got pretty bad. And eventually, as I shared with you all in Punta Cana, it led me to a time where even 2 little steps that I needed to move through to get into my place, I couldn't move through it. I couldn't even lift my feet. Now, that is a year at least, a year of going from doctor to doctor, a year where I worked less and less, could not finish school, could not go to classes, could not intellectually absorb the information, feeling like I was dying, and a lot of fear accumulating through that process, and anger from not getting answers, which seems like an obvious ache, like something was definitely wrong with me, but nobody could help me with it. And through all that, working less, paying for insurance, seeing the doctors that were paid for, none of them could help me. So eventually it led me to sort of letting it go, letting all go, the world, the Western world, which is pretty much all I knew most of my life, and investigate how other countries, other philosophy handle the health of someone's body. And that very much created a whole other area in my life where I got to understand how the intellect, the emotional, and the physical are one and the same. And this is where I discover herbs and adaptogen mushrooms and adaptogen herbs, plants, and even food itself, and all the things you can do with these elements of the earth to heal oneself. It also led me deeply into my attitude toward life, and how I dealt with the challenges of life, and how that also contributed to me having a disease or inability to thrive physically. It was very clear to me that it was something that was not talked about or really discussed, at least back in those days, with regular conventional doctor. So it led me, as I said, to Chinatown, little areas of Los Angeles, where I bought barks and roots and herbs and tincture, and I cooked all that in my apartment. And it was 1.5 years of intense process, at least, to ingesting these terrible tasting things. But I have to say that within 3 months, I could have a sense that something was happening, a sense of my body doing, whew, that's what needed. And that's the kind of knowing that you can't explain, but I think we all had an experience somewhere, somehow in life, where it doesn't matter what someone tells you or others tell you, you know that this is good for you, and nobody can argue that. And that is what helped me continue my journey, because it was all very foreign to me back in those days. And also to take responsibility for my life. That it didn't serve me to continue blaming my family or the circumstances or our life, or even the, what's it called in English? The system that pays for my insurance, health insurance. Like, none of that served me. It didn't help me in any way, shape, or form. So letting go of what has happened, not in a idiotic way, but in an intelligent way, in terms of the blaming and the pointing the finger and allowing myself to continue my suffering because it was not my fault. All that fell apart, because within learning about the earth and all that I could ingest and cook and eat that would help me, I also learned from all these other ways of thinking about life that if I didn't change radically my way of handling my life on an emotional, intellectual manner, it didn't matter what I ate. It didn't matter if I meditated for 5 hours and I called myself a great yogi. None of that mattered if on a day-to-day, realistic, very grounded way, I was in charge of my emotional, intellectual state, and I took control of my reaction toward the world and people. So all of that was one and the same for me. And that journey is what eventually led me, because my career, I've had sort of many careers, and it just followed my own life lessons. I'm one of those people that didn't really plan on anything. It just came to me. I fall in love with something and I throw myself in it. And then all these things sort of coagulate and they become one and the same, at least for me. And that led me to continue dealing with the world of athletes and training and physical fitness. But I introduced the intellectual, the emotional, and the nourishing part, the herbs, the digestive enzymes, systemic enzymes, the fiber, the very basic fundamental, grounds on that we try to teach our kids so badly, and added to that the adaptogen and all the more subtle element, at least for our culture, not so subtle. In China, Japan, India, those things are just very common. That's just the way life is. So I introduced that to the way I handled the people that came to me for help. And then I ended up doing it for companies and for, studios and back in those days, I trained a lot of actors and directors, producers. So that became sort of how I handled one's health, because that is what showed itself to be true for me. And I felt solid having lived that experience, walked that path. I felt very using it and speaking it and sharing it with others. And that led me eventually to meet Carl and eventually to move in with Carl. And he saw that was part of my day-to-day, how I handled his health and my health and the people around me and then for my child. And then he asked me to create Shakeology as he saw the benefit of that shake for himself. Now, back in those days, just so you know, I didn't have one shake. So depending, the luxury of dealing with one or people that you're close to is you get a sense of what is needed depending on what the person is going through that week or that month. So, but it was always in the form of shake, because I could introduce stuff that tasted really, really bad, especially with that man who honestly, anything that has too bright of a color, he will not eat. So it helped me to camouflage the sourness, the bitterness, and all that, and try to blend it in a way that was sort of, he enjoyed it enough to take it. Because if you do not like something, unless you're very ill, when you get very ill, you eat whatever. It doesn't matter what it tastes like, because you so badly want to get better. But if you're not super down and ill to a place where you can't function, you're just kind of annoyed. If it tastes bad, you just won't go. You won't reach for it. So we knew we had to. I knew back in those days that I had to try to make it taste good as well, without compromising the benefits of the drink that I was making. So he saw me do that, asked me to create one for Beachbody. I declined, and I told him that I was quite conflicted, because when I did that for companies, often when the profit came in, as I shared earlier, the quality goes down for all sorts of reasons. And not everybody, I never want to vilify everybody, everyone, but more often than not, in my experience. And because, as I said, because I love my husband very much, and I had no desire to leave him. But if this particular CEO was going to compromise on the quality of the shake, I would be quite mad. And I don't know, and I didn't want to find out how I would handle that. So we had an agreement made between he and I that if I did that, he gave me his word that he would not compromise the quality for profit. And he did that. He reinvests in the shake all the time, and I'm very, very proud of him. And so that's the story of Shakeology. And then if I go a little further, so at that point I also wanted to start a family, got pregnant, had a child, and I was older. I had my boy when I was 40, and I was very ready for a child, and I really wanted to be able to stay home and really live that experience. And I had been in the world, traveled, I fulfilled enough of my ego desires and got humbled and humiliated enough. I was very ready to be a mama. And so I needed help. And I had a list of ingredients that were very dear to me. And I knew it was not set in stone, but the philosophy and the components were there. And I asked Darren, a friend of ours, said you should really meet that guy. And I asked him to bring his list. And of course, the list was, practically identical. And he was the guy. Huh?
The list of everything that you wanted in a shake.
Yeah, we had ingredients in the philosophy, whole food based, bioactive alives, a synergy of ingredients because, it's like the antioxidants in green tea are different. They're unique to the green tea than fruits, than superfood. And so we knew that there was a synergy there that was very helpful to enhance the benefits. And which is great because you have two lists and you still have elements that are slightly different and you combine that. That was the beginning of Shakeology. And also I knew I couldn't go visit the vendors, the supplier. I wanted to be home. And as I said in Punta Cana, I'm very comfortable being the gatherer and I'll let the guy be the hunter. I do not pretend to be, I'm mostly yang. Which one is the man? Yin yang. I'm very female in my way of being in the world. So there you go. That was Darren and I. And then over the years, I'm trying to give you as much information, Patrick, as I can. Over the years, what has happened quite rapidly is the success of the shake. And Darren and I were definitely not enough. And we now have created an incredible team, experts, tons of, I call them my white suit, our white suits, PhD levels, and people that are R&D department, quality, toxicity group that make sure that the potency, the purity, the quality, the integrity of the plant, of the mushrooms, of the fruits and vegetables, of the grains, of the protein, that everything is up to par to the standard that Beachbody is comfortable with. So we, Darren and I, are not equipped to know that. We are not the one who can go all over the world and know exactly where to pick the plants or test the soil or all the very subtle, intricate way to test the facilities. That takes an expert that is trained and years of schooling and experiences to tell us, yes, it's what you want. So we have a team that I feel now is integrous of the formulation. They are formulators in my eyes because we can have a concept, a philosophy, the ingredients we love. We bring in the wild ingredients or things that they may not know, but without them, it could not be put together. They're the one blending it. They're the one coming back to us and saying, hey, we know you want this, but it's really not interacting well with this ingredient and that ingredient, or the taste is awful. We can't blend that. What else would you want to replace? We have some options. Are you okay with it? And at the end of the day, we decide, but we all decide. So it's much bigger than the both of us, and thankfully so. And so they also are the one who can keep up with integrity, who come back with the test because they're the one in there on the ground doing and gathering. So that's as much as I can say now before questions.
Yeah, I love it. I'm unmuted, right? Okay. So I was looking at your Facebook page. Like, I've been watching it this year since you kind of started your like page, and I loved your talk on mind and ego and all that stuff. And I'd love to like jump into that maybe if we have time towards the end a little bit. But maybe let's start with like the body. I think we all feel the benefits of Shakeology, but sometimes we don't really understand like what exactly is happening in the body and all the different systems of the body and how they interact and what the certain foods in Shakeology are doing for the different systems of the body and how that kind of works. So I know that's a big question to try to answer because there's so many things going on, but I don't know if you want to try to
keep in mind, Patrick, that there's so much that I can't state, legally not allowed to state. So as much as I would want to dive deep in each aspect of that question, I cannot. And And I don't vilify that. I actually appreciate that, because it's become very easy to make claims and statements that can really confuse one's understanding of it all. And sometimes miracle cures and all that. So I get it, and I'm okay with it. And this is why I'm always saying I will start the conversation, but please feel free to challenge that by going out there and reading about all of it. Go and search and research and compare answers and tests. Be your own test tube. But I will speak to it in terms of the digestive tract.
I was going to say, let's start with the gut. Like the first.
The gut.
Well, I guess actually the first thing is the palate, because I've noticed, like me personally, and I remember you talking about that. Our palate starts to change as we start to get reintroduced to some of these foods, and all of a sudden, like the things that we craved, the sugar and salt, all of a sudden they don't taste as good as they did before.
Yeah. Well, one thing we have to see. And I'm glad you remind me of that, because we talk about so much. Sometimes I forget things that I really like because they bring some clarity. We forget that the body is you. We forget that it's we say mind-body connection. It's beyond mind-body connection. It is you. It is a reflection of all that you feel, think, and ingest. Ingest in terms of nourishment, and ingest in terms of, if you keep going for horror movies and bad news and sad books, I'm so sorry, but stress hormone will start happening to your body, and it will create a stress response in your body. So your guts don't only digest food and liquid, it digests everything that you look at and you indulge in with all your senses. It's a highly sophisticated machine, and I think we underestimate it, and we think we can trick it. It's you. You can't trick you. So the mouth and what you chew gives tons of signals to the body of what's about to happen, and it will give you feedback. So that craving for sugar or salt, as opposed to thinking it betrays you and it gets in the way of your diet, it would be so helpful if you could look at it. What is it trying to tell me? Because your body is constantly trying to tell you something. It wants homeostasis. It wants that integrity. It wants that health and that vitality. And so it has all sorts of ways: pimples, losing your hair, lack of energy, and a need for salt and sugar, an intense need for salt and sugar that tells you there's an imbalance somewhere. It is all about balance. It's like life. You can claim that those things are unfair and it shouldn't happen to you. And I would say, why? Why are you saying it's unfair? Why not to you? To whom is it fair to? To the guy you don't like? It's fair to him, but it's not fair to you. It's not about that. It's much more universal. It's a balance. So it's the same thing. It's trying to tell you there's a lack of balance. And if you listen and you see it as your ally, it will guide you inevitably to health if you allow it. So if you crave certain things in an incessant way, it is telling you something is off balance. And indeed, it starts in what you go for. If you go for sweets all the time. So I know that with my kid, who inherits a little bit of his father, I really got smart into creating even our yogurt nowadays are loaded with sugar, right? And the milk is pasteurized, so some of the stuff is inactive in the milk that back in the days used to be very active and very good for you. The enzymes in the milk are dead. And this is why they add all these things, right? So I would make sure to create a yogurt that was healthy. So for us, it was coconut. Doesn't mean it's the only healthy one. It was coconut, so made from coconut yogurt. And I would use stevia, luangho to sweeten it, and on. And I would find ways to give him that sense of sweetness, but to nourish his body, trying to figure out what it is that he wants in order for him to slowly, and it did happen, not crave sugar so much. So digestion, your gut, is so much. The gut feeling of something that just doesn't feel right. Trust me, there will be a reaction in there. a stress reaction if you insist on going into a situation that makes you sit back and not feel comfortable. And also the same thing happens when you keep ingesting things that are not good for you. It will give you signals. So the microbiome, that's the big word now, which is just the balance of what the prebiotic, probiotic, systemic enzyme, digestive enzymes, and fiber. Fiber is a very non-glamorous element, and yet it is crucial to your well-being. It's like a broom that goes and cleanses everything and helps you to let go of toxins. It's very important, very simple to get, and as we know from all the research, most Americans barely have enough, and it creates a lot of problems. And because if you keep toxins in, you're going to get in trouble. No matter what else you eat, if you're not allowing your body to process something and let it go, you'll be in trouble. So those are elements that keep your gut in a place of balance. And so for me, I can't help but go straight to also watch your thoughts and watch how reactive you are to the world. And to me, probiotic, systemic enzyme, digestive enzymes, and fiber, fermented food, very important, creates those probiotics. And what you say to someone, are you allowing abuse to come your way? Are you abusing others? And are you always so offended by everything? Because of course the world is unfair. If it's not always easy, you get very upset, so you react. And wow, and all that all day long, it's as abusive as eating sugar all day long. So the gut is all that for me. I do not differentiate. This is why I think Eckhart Tolle talks about that a lot. There's these people that meditate and do all these yoga classes and stuff, and then they step out of that world. It's like a separate little bubble. And they step out of that bubble, and then they're still reactive, or they're very obsessively healthy. So they ingest all the right thing, but obsessively. It's the only way to eat. You must eat that way. Offended when someone doesn't eat that way. Makes a point of telling everyone about how good the way they eat is. It's one thing to share and be wide open and receptive to sharing information that's been healthy to you. It's another thing to judge everybody else and shove it in their face. That will create disease just as much. So to me, all that is one and the same.
Love that. So what the prebiotics, probiotics, digestive enzymes, fiber, they all are doing things to help you digest food correctly so that your body can take that nutrients and move it to where it needs to move it.
Yeah, there's bacteria. You're full of all these things we think are bad, i.e. bacteria, but it's the balance of good and bad bacteria that creates health. Some of these bacteria are very important because they digest aspect of the food that you could not without them. Right. So it's not elimination, and it's not, oh, something's terribly wrong. It's keeping a balance. So when you eat processed food, when you eat too much sugar, when you overload your system with protein, whatever imbalance in any way, shape, or form will create an internal imbalance, and that will create problem. So it's always, and that is your immune system. That is the balance, the solidity of your immune system. This is why I say, if this is a mess, it will affect your emotions. And indeed, since I started this journey almost 30 years ago, a conscious journey, many books I've called the gut area your second brain. That a lot of things that you thought were happening here are actually happening in your gut and giving signals to your brain, and then your brain translate that to you.
And I think a lot of people will say, that's expensive for a protein, and they don't really realize it's so much. Has protein, obviously, but it's so much more than that. And
that's great. Do you want me to get into that?
Yeah, that'd be great.
There's great, ancient grains. It's great protein, but I have never been worried about people, especially in America, lacking protein or carbs. It's the least of my worry. Perhaps concern about the quality of protein and carbs,
Right.
whole food, all these things that we can get into later. But really, as I always say, the shake for me is called a missing link. So the shake is all the ingredients that are hard to get or taste terrible, or you don't even know it, or you don't understand the importance of it because your life and your work leads you somewhere else and you're too busy to figure it out. So those are the elements and the understanding I got throughout the years when I was healing myself or allowing the earth to heal me. So the shake is not a protein shake. It's not even about the macro ingredients, even though there's a great balance of carbs, protein, fat, and fiber, very important to keep a steady blood sugar to help you with your cravings. But it's really about what I just mentioned. Your superfood, phytonutrients, your superfruit, your antioxidants. It's about your guts. It is about the elements that help you remain healthy. Elements that without them, you would not remain alive. You could not function. So again, and I'm repeating it again, prebiotic, which your probiotic feed on. Systemic enzyme, the pool of enzymes that from it, you get a digestive enzyme. Some of them you have, some of them you have to constantly ingest in order to keep up with. And your fiber. And beyond that, plants, fruits, vegetables have an activity inside them, an aliveness, what we call the potency of a plant. That is something that is very challenging to get nowadays. Most things are shipped from all around the world, and the soil is polluted, the air is polluted. So for all the things that grow open pod, no matter even if the ground is organic, the air is not. This is why things that come from China, most of the rice protein comes from China, and it's very polluted. And so therefore, even if the soil is good, it will absorb the toxicity level from the air. So it's getting very tricky to get something clean. And picking a plant and eating it is an unbelievable way to feed yourself, a way that hardly any of us can claim. And this is where the life in a plant, the active ingredients of a plant, the constituents, like Darren keeps using that word, are crucial and hard to get. And this is why the expensive processes, the processes that are subtle and delicate and do not kill these active component of plants, that somehow keep that integrity all the way to until it's in the bag, all the way until you ingest it. That is expensive. And before the expensiveness of the machine themselves, the intent to keep that alive is what creates the results. If all of us were too dense to get that, it would not be. So it's a very important aspect of what we do. So the shake is the missing link. All these ingredients that are hard to get, meaning some of it comes from Peru, some of it you may never know about, some of it you may dislike the taste of so greatly that you would never want to eat it. And it's the synergy of all these elements, the ability to see which one complements what one, and to put that in a bag for you. That's what's so delicious about the shake for me. And then we have the healthy carbs, the healthy protein, fat, but all these other elements in plants and roots and vegetables and herbs and adaptogen mushrooms that you probably would not want to get. I know my mom in Canada can't get half of it because of the winters. So this is the gold in the Shakeology. That's what it's about. And that is about your immune system. Trying to keep your immune system strong, your ability to deal with stress of life, emotional, mental, and physical, trying to allow your body to be strong in dealing with life.
Love that. I like that missing link.
Yeah, that was the name I wanted, for the shake, and my husband said, yeah, you're not that good at that. Let me name stuff.
So you came up with Shakeology. It's stuck.
Shakeology is great.
Yeah. So for someone who doesn't really know much about food, doesn't pay attention to it or how the body works or anything, if someone wanted to know, why is it so important to have phytonutrients? And maybe we can just kind of do like a little rapid fire of kind of some of these different things, but we'll start with like phytonutrients, which is in Shakeology. So why is that so important for someone to have?
Well, it all goes back again to the antioxidant, and it all goes back again to the immune system. So phytonutrients, we can have the fruits and the vegetable, basically. The super greens that have that deep green and that bitterness.
So yeah, what are like a few examples that are of phytonutrients that are in Shakeology? Chlorella.
Yes, like chlorella, spirulina, these deep,
Algae,
dark green. Huh?
Blue-green algae, is that like
blue-green algae? Yeah. And by the way, these very elements are the ones that are the most polluted. We used to have a lot more. We had to take them out.
Right.
And this is where the integrity of the company itself, without it, doesn't matter the fanciness of your equipment, there would be no need for that equipment if the integrity was not behind it, because it would be very easy to keep all these amazing green, like blue algae elements in the shake, even though it's highly polluted, because it looks good on the bag.
Right.
And back in the days, because the shake went through transformation, back in the days, we got criticism. Why isn't it back? We couldn't. I'm not saying maybe someone else could. Part of the challenge too is the fact that we're so successful. The volume of what we need makes it a challenge to find suppliers and vendors that can give us that bigger amount.
Right, in quality, right.
But really, we couldn't find the integrity of those deep green elements like spirulina. We couldn't find something clean without heavy metals and any kind of toxicity level that was way too high to live up to our standard. So we had to let them go. So this is what I mean is the state of affairs of the planet Earth is very intimidating in many ways. And I was aware of that, but never as much as I am now dealing with the shake, because we have to go all around the world to get these elements. And we are constantly shocked how often we just can't use something. It's over. We can't find it. We can't find it without it being highly polluted. And so phytonutrients is just another element of nature. Those deep greens, they're just a word that is an element in a plant that is extremely beneficial to your immune system. Again, I'm limited in how much I go into it from legal department. So if you want to go deeper into everything that is claimed online concerning phytonutrients, please go and understand what your own, doing. But all I can state, and really it comes down to your gut, your immune system, and the superfood antioxidants, and the vegetable greens version of that is phytonutrients, antioxidant in the form of phytonutrients. Those two together are just your best friend to help your immune system be strong. It's the same thing if you want, Patrick, to move right to adaptogen mushroom. Let's talk about that, and I'll go as deep as I can go. But the adaptogen mushrooms are a beauty, and there's adaptogen herbs as well. Holy basil is one of them. So they have an ability to go into your body and to remember that alignment, that balance, that homeostasis in your body. It has the ability to go in there, and without us telling it where to go, it will know what part of your system is out of balance, and it will bring the balance back to that organ, to that system. You've got your endocrine system. I would love to educate people more and more about all these systems: your endocrine system, your adrenal system, your vessel system, your cardiovascular system.
We'll do a team call just on the endocrine system.
Just on that alone. You have all these digestive system, you have all these elements in your system. They all work together. Any imbalance in any of them will create a state of disease, especially if chronic.
Right.
Now, when you take allopathy, when you take a medicine, you know those commercials, take this drug to fix this, and then there's all these things I can create. You can die if you take this, but you will not die from that.
Right.
And so the reason is that it's very challenging to fix a system without bringing great incoherence in other system, bringing a state of disease in other system.
Right.
Your body is teamwork. Everything needs everything, and it's in constant communication, constant, whether you know it or not. So your liver cells will not tell, well, you know what? The cells that are assigned to blood vessel really screwed me today. So you know what the hell, I'm not working today. All right, that's it. That's all. It never does that. It's constantly communicating and working in partnership with your whole system and helping each other to keep you alive. So the adaptogens can go in there, and instead of disturbing everything else in order to fix that one particular place, as if they don't all need to be in line in order to function well, in order for you to feel good in your body, it will be able to bring that osmosis to help bring well-being back without harming any other system. It's one of the criteria to be called an adaptogen, and it's a miracle. We still can't do that, but nature did it for us. And so this is the beauty of adaptogen mushrooms. And this is why we're so excited to have Shaga in the shake now. And the same thing with, if I move on to our teas, teas also have their own antioxidants. They're just called different because they look different in a tea version, tea leaves. But this is what matcha green tea is so wonderful. So it has the catechins, which is a form of antioxidants, L-theanine. So two ingredients that together brings calm focus, because L-theanine will take the edge off of the caffeine. So the caffeine is what can lead to restless sleep at night, or when you feel a crash. Right. You don't get that with the matcha green tea because L-theanine is there to come to the rescue. It's built in. It's just the way it is. It's so smart. This is why people back in the days would meditate and use green tea to keep that calm focus. It's built in. So again, another way to help your immune system in a way that's not harmful, because it is designed by nature, not designed by Darren and Isabelle. It's designed by nature. We are just clever enough to say, hey, I really want that in the shake. So those are the elements, back to your other question, that makes the shake. It's not a protein shake. It's too easy. You don't even need a shake for that. Just eat protein. And protein is easier to get. But these elements are harder and harder to get in a way that's not violated, that kills the active in a plant, and in a way that is synergized together through our white coats, that we can have many elements from all around the world that have their own form of antioxidants. So we just went through phytonutrients, super fruit, super vegetables, and then we have our adaptogen mushrooms. And again, we have everything that is the health of your gut, which is your enzymes, without which you can digest food. And enzymes are very often killed through processes, processes that are highly toxic. Very often we'll use very strong chemicals to process something because it's easier and cheaper. And therefore, not only will you kill everything that's active in the plant, but you also ingest chemicals and very harmful substances to your physical well-being, your immune system.
Okay.
Am I missing something, Patrick?
What's that?
Am I missing something?
You hit it all. I think you hit it all. Rob just popped a question here. It says, I don't know if you're allowed to answer this, but it says, is Shakeology safe for pregnant women or children?
Yeah, I have to say that you have to go check with the doctor and make your own decision according to what feels good to you and your doctor. I took it personally. I took it pre, during, and after. But that's just me. And no, I'm not allowed to to encourage you to do that.
Right. And then what about?
But I encourage you to read about each ingredient and how to learn and understand, just like I did back in the days, what does this element mean to my well-being? What does it do? And I encourage you to educate your doctors. Some doctors are hip to it, and some doctors, because they care for you, they don't do it out of maliciousness. They don't know about these things. They don't understand them. So when you have a little baby and they're in charge of the life of your baby, they'll be quite hesitant to introduce a new thing that they don't know anything about. And I respect and honor that. But if you feel strongly about it and you understand it, bring the information to your doctor. Say, this is why I feel like this could benefit me, but after reading this and discussing this, how do you feel about it? So this is taking charge of your health.
Question here. Another one is, can you explain the new ingredients in Shakeology and how they're more beneficial? I think you kind of went into that a little bit.
I think I did it. So the shaga is what I talked about, the adaptogen mushroom. Shaga is another one. So I went through that. And I think I went to the matcha green tea, the catechins and L-theanine, and it's an organic supplier. Shaga is also certified organic. So whenever we can do it, we do it. And I think I went through it.
Yeah.
Patrick, correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, you hit it. So before we go back to the questions there, someone actually had a question how you and Carl met.
Oh my God, that's a long story. Okay. But really, Carl fired me twice.
Oh, he fired you twice?
Yes.
Really?
He brought me along because, remember, I was a track and field coach. So I came from the sport world. And just quick background, many of you may know or may not know, but the fitness world, in terms of what the mass was educated by, was really from the bodybuilder world. So compartmentalizing body parts. The sport world is all about function. So when I train a sprinter, 0.05 second can dictate gold or bronze. Right. So it's about function. Is the whole functioning well in order to create that 1 second winner timing?
Right. Which ties in what we just talked about with what Shakeology does for the whole body.
That's correct. Yeah. Of course. Of course. So I used to do track and field work back in those days, one of the things I was doing. And I was asked to come to Beachbody to create an ab workout. Two things and why I got fired. So back in those days, what is now common sense, functional training, where for me, I never did abs laying on the floor. We don't do crunches. It's just not how we do it. Now, some of people still believe in it and do it, and I'm not going into that. That's not my function at Beachbody anymore. But for me, there was no such thing as crunches. I did planks, and I forgot all these words now. It's like another lifetime. But farmer's walk, and there's all sorts of things that you would do in order to create a strong abdominal, which is really the connection between the upper body, lower body, helping you to twist and turn, balance, function of your stability of your hips, and the power that allows you to throw, to run. There was a very real function to the abdominals. So crunches or these kind of things did not bring that function, at least in my philosophy. So I created a whole program that in those days didn't make sense. Now it's all we do. But in those days, it didn't resonate with Carl. And part two is I really suck in front of the camera. So I wasn't good at being the cheerleader and many things. I was very serious and very intense in my workouts. And it sucked in front of the camera. So it was very right to fire me. But the information remained. And as you all know, now that's all that we do. Everything's about functional training and less about bodybuilder. And I'm not vilifying one or the other. It's whatever works best for you or whatever helps you step into fitness. Whatever bridges it for you, whatever you resonate the most with. That's what matters. So a little bit of everything is quite helpful. And then the second part is that I, went to the office and he had a shake at the time. I don't think we sell that anymore, but we had a shake and I brought my version of my shakes that I was designing for the studios back in those days. And that's the film studios back here in Los Angeles. And he tasted mine. I'm not sure if I'm supposed to tell that story, but I'm in it. But he tasted mine and he said, "Oh my God, that tastes like shit." I don't know if that word is going to be beefed, but it tastes like crap. And
I'm not going to beep it.
I looked,
I won't beep it. I use that word all the time.
And I looked at his shake and I said, "Yeah, but yours is crap." And I was fired and it didn't work out. And then, so cut to, I'm living with him and I'm creating shakes. But I have to say that, of course, I did not have the ability to put all these things in a shake and make it taste as good as it tastes to you now. I needed the labs. I needed Beachbody to create that with the help of all our guys and Darren. So that was a bit of the history of how we got to get what happened prior to what you guys know. So it was fun. It was a fun. I'd never been fired before. That was fun. Very humbling.
Yeah. I think as soon as you told him that his shake tasted like shit, I think that was like the moment he fell in love with you, probably.
Yeah, well, we'll ask that. We'll have to ask, right? But I was never very good at politically correct. I'm learning a little bit. I'm learning a little, but it was definitely not my forte back then.
I love it. I would love to save a little bit of time at the end to talk, just because I see like some of the videos you're starting to post on your like page, to coaches, not just about Shakeology, but just advice for them in the world and building a business and trying to help other people. But before we jump, if we have time for that at the end, but I just want to get to a few of these guys' questions here, more specific to.
Yeah, I'll try to be succinct if I can.
Okay, so I think it's a lot of Shakeology. So another question is the scoop bigger for the vegan Shakeology versus the regular?
All that technical stuff, guys, I am not the one. Okay. I really am not. But sometimes it has to do, it's the same amount of calories, the same amount of ingredients, but it has to do with the kind of protein with the vegan and the way one takes more volume, one takes less volume, but it comes back to the same amount of ingredients, the benefits of it and the calories, it's the same, but it's very technical. It has nothing, you're not getting less with one bag or the other, but I'm not the one for these kind of questions. Like even all the challenge pack and all that, I don't really know. It sounds good, but I'm not really part of that world.
Right. Next question is, what's your opinion on the keto diet? I don't know if you're familiar with that, KETO.
Yes, I think I remember. Is it mostly protein and all that?
I'm not sure. Maybe, Joe, you could talk about it.
It's like those things have been around for so long, and I remember dealing with all that back in the days. I'm really not here to it's, at the end of the day, it's a personal, meaning I may have my concept of what I feel is healthy or unhealthy, but it's irrelevant. What's relevant is what you need to experience in your life right now. If the keto diet is something you want to investigate and find out for yourself if it leads to health and balance in your body, please do. It's just not my favorite way to go about things, because if you're curious and you want to get into that, you will, no matter what I say. And I've had my own experience with many, many aspects of how one can feed oneself. And I have my concept and my favorite ways to go about it. Like I don't really count calories. So if you're going to ask me how many calories, this and that, because a lot of the Beachbody diets are based on calories, I would be useless to you. I don't do that. And I'm not vilifying that. It's very useful to help oneself figure out what a regular portion is and all that stuff, but it's not where I feel I'm the most helpful, and it's also not how I deal with health.
Love it. I think we got one more question here. With Shakeology, I just checked. It was 7 grams of sugar, and the question was, sometimes people say they can't drink it because there's too much sugar. How would you?
Yeah, there isn't really. Some of that sugar is from fruit and vegetables and grains. So there's a natural sugar that comes into that you have to add in there. Actually, I think the labels will change, where a lot of companies would have will have to add the sugar from their vegetables and fruits and grains in their sugar content, which they don't do, I think, right now. So it's in there. So it comes from there, which is just, if you ate an apple, I think if you Google it, apple is quite high in sugar, one apple. So if you don't freak out in eating one apple, I don't think 7 grams of sugar should freak you out. It's low glycemic. So all our, it is helping to keep a blood sugar level, all our shake. And the sugar comes from luang ho, stevia, and fruit sugar, or right now organic cane sugar, which has helped us in some of our shake to bring the glycemic level lower. So I do not understand that. We refuse to put sucralose and chemicals to make the sugar seem super low, but it's also, all our shake help to stabilize our blood sugar level. So I don't think it's high in sugar, and we can have a deep conversation about that at some point if you wish, me or Darren.
Awesome, cool. You probably don't know, you aren't in on like the whole how they're gonna.
Oh, by the way, wait. Also, don't forget, this is not white processed sugar. This is healthy whole food based sugar. So even our organic cane sugar, that's not brown sugar, which is basically strip white sugar, like I explained, with molasses for the color. It is a plant, and it has amino acids, vitamin, minerals. It is good for you, and it's not processed harshly. It has kept the active in it alive. And so when we talk sugar, let's make sure that we're not saying we have white dead sugar in there that spikes your blood sugar levels. Sorry, Patrick.
No, that's great. I think it's really hard to compare like a label versus a label, because sugar is not sugar.
That's right.
Depending on where it comes from.
Yeah.
Especially if it's coming from stripped white sugar, that has such a much harsher impact on the body versus sugar that comes from whole foods, fruits and vegetables.
And because a plant-based sugar or something that is whole has these amino acids, vitamin, minerals, because it is a plant, it is much more nourishing, and it doesn't make you crave more sugar. Right. It satiates you because it's balanced. Right. It's whole, it's nature. Right. And that's a huge difference.
Right. It's balanced so that you don't get some of the white sugar. It doesn't have the part that balances. It just has the sugar that makes you go high and then crash. And then
your body crashing is no energy, right? That's what crashing is. Right. It's no energy, and it's freaking out because it's crashing. It's not just lower energy because you haven't slept well. It is crashing. So it's like, give me some more because I'm scared, and then you go for more sugar, basically.
Right. Whereas Shakeology is more of that sustainable energy.
Correct. It's providing food.
Right. Fuel. Okay. So I didn't save a ton of time for this. I don't know. Do you have to run?
I have 10 more minutes, maybe 15, depending if I get the signal.
Okay. Great. So I saw some of the videos you've posted. You talk a lot about self-doubt. And I mean, as someone as we're coaches and we're out there trying to inspire and help other people, that the little bit of self-doubt can creep in and say, who am I to think I can be out there trying to inspire or help others when I'm struggling myself with these things? So you talk about self-love and self-acceptance and authenticity. So I guess what kind of advice, it's a very broad spectrum, but I guess what would be advice for, for the coaches out there, if you kind of just looked across the board at what they're trying to do for themselves and for others, and maybe some of the doubt they run into and some of the roadblocks mentally, what kind of advice would you have for them?
It's funny that you asked me that because I just finished a video that will be posted tonight. I think about that. I was trying so hard to make it short, but it went on for 25 minutes. And I know that in these days and age, God knows you ask people to sit and listen to something for more than 6 minutes. My husband says, try to keep them under 5. You know what? I'm like, if you're going to go on this Facebook page, just know that you're in it, that I'm just talking. I can't do sound bites. And, so I actually spoke to that because I am highly aware of that. And I think what happens is that we nowadays have this concept that unless you're somebody and something extraordinary happened to you, and then that is marketed in the form of perfection, that what you have to say is not worthy. And I can only speak on that which helped me having less and less self-doubt. Now, self-doubt is different than being humble and gracious and understanding that all have a right to be heard and to speak. That's very different, right? Self-doubt is thinking that you have no worth. And what is worth? And that's what I try to get into on that post. And for me, I can only speak to me and hope that it resonates and enhances you. If I was to speak to coaches, is what is self-worth? And self-worth was created in me because of the challenges and the difficulties in life. So I learned my self-worth, and it goes back to that internal integrity I was discussing about. That self-worth was created one beat at a time. It was the aspect of my mind, my emotions, and my action being congruent. So an ability, the courage, the guts to be honest with oneself, and then the guts to go out there and be honest with others. Not what looks good to the outside, but for you to know that what is deeply, profoundly a need and a desire and a feeling that you have that makes you feel good about yourself, that you're capable of speaking that language and acting upon it. And that's do no harm. So I learned that through lying, manipulating, and creating chaos. I learned that in my earlier days, and even in more subtle forms now, through messing up constantly. So yes, indeed, we are all highly imperfect. We all make mistakes. We all create chaos, unnecessary chaos. Life creates chaos. But the way to overcome self-doubt and to say, through these imperfections, what have I learned? What diamond can I now share, not out of the concept out of my head because I read a great book, but the very thing that created self-doubts, the very thing that made me lie and not be honest with myself, and therefore being dishonest with other people, and then watching the incredible chaos that I created for myself and others. But what are the gems from it? What have I learned so that as you keep going, the challenges that are presented to you, you get excited about it. Oh, I recognize that. I remember that. I learned from that. Let me share with you in what I say, in what I share with you, whether it's Shakeology or anything else. Let me use these incoherency, this chaos. Let me share with you the gems and the beauty and the lessons and the truth I have learned through it. And through remager in French, through moving through this chaos and learning the depth and the truth and the honesty and the lessons of the world, learning, indeed, you must tell the truth. Indeed, there's a zillion ways you can lie to yourself, but truth is truth. And what is that with you in your life? And how can you share that with others? So when these self-doubts come, where do they come from? It comes from putting your self-worth in the hands of the things that are not real. And that is the big house and the fancy clothes and the right friends and the right restaurant to go eat at and to be seen. And it comes from thinking that great success creates self-worth. I'm so sorry, but it does not. It is your journey to that specific accomplishment. What integrity did you have in that journey on your way there? And that little by little, those are not the big fancy choices. Those are little tiny choices, one choice at a time, very unglamorous on a day-to-day basis. What do you choose? Integrity or lies? Little lies, fibbing to yourself. And in those day-to-day choice to integrity and truth, for you, and your ability to voice that and move from that place, the little choices, at some point when you get the big challenges, that self-worth created in your own integrity, what you say, what you feel, what you do, comes from that. I made that choice based on my truth. I did not let someone convince me in the name of instant gratification. I chose that. And in these little moments, these little choices every day, you create your self-worth so that you may end up having the big house, super. You may end up living in a beautiful place on the beach, or whatever is great for you. You may have the six-pack abs, the perfect, whatever perfect is physique to you, but your integrity and sense of worth does not come from there. So that you're not now an addict to your body, or an addict to your house, or even an addict to a diet. That the integrity of your choices of who you are is being created on your day-to-day basis, on your little choices every day. So that worth comes from that place. Once you have that, as you create that, self-doubt will come and go, just like struggles, challenges will come and go, but you know that your self-worth is not based on, am I successful? Do other people think I'm worthy? Those goals are just how you share your beauty. You share your worth. You share what you have learned. That's what your goals are. So if Shakeology, the Team Beachbody, that's just one way. If that is how your integrity, your truth, your experience of life, what enhanced you, and you now feel can enhance other, if that is how you can show yourself in the world, then there you go. So the challenges and struggles will not stop you. You're not banking on how good it looks from the outside. You're solid inside. So to me, as I shared in that post, the challenges come and it's just like, oh, okay, let's see who I am. What have I got? Who am I really? Let's see how I will handle that challenge. Will I betray myself, or will I remain true to what I have learned in the non-glamorous choices of the day-to-day stuff? How do I deal with my child? How do I deal with my work? How do I deal with my body? How do I deal with my husband? When challenges, when opposition seems to create chaos, how will I pick the gem from it? Because you have to remember that we are all the same thing. We may look different from the outside. We all want that integrity. We all want to feel like we are honest with who we are and what we present in the world. This is why I posted this thing about authenticity. Authenticity is that self-worth. So I was saying, I don't care if you post your beautiful meals and your workouts and all that, if inside the way you get that there is by betraying yourself somehow. That worth has nothing to do with what's presented on the outside. So am I too all over the place, or do I make sense to you guys? Please shoot me questions if I'm confusing you.
Oh, that was right on point. I think a lot of times people, we tend to look for external validation to create our sense of self-worth.
Yes, and the world wants that. It wants it to think that you need it in order to feel good about yourself. And it just isn't it. And we all know that. I was sharing in the post that little voice that will whisper things to you. Don't do that. That's not going to be cool. Just, don't say that.
The little inner critic or the judge.
Yeah, don't say that. That's not going to turn out good. And you say it anyway. And you pay the price at some point. And so these little lessons of the world is what life is about. And I'm just getting there. I am just getting there, and I'm still being challenged, but I don't see the doubts and the challenges and the struggles. I don't see them as enemy, and it is not who I am. And I'm now more solid in myself, in my truth. And this is why I don't sell the shake. I share it. It is what I was able to create and bring forth to the world, one of the things, and I share it and may it enhance you. But I'm not arrogant in it. I don't think that if you don't drink that shake, you're an idiot. You may need to experience other things, and other things may help you. It's just my way. That's what worked for me, and I'm now sharing it with you. So the less arrogance and the more humbleness, the more compassion to understand that at some point, I didn't know about the shake. I was sick. I didn't treat my body well. I didn't treat my heart and my mind well. And so who am I to say that we all should be so wise and that I am a finished product? No, 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 no. I need to struggle, continued challenges, because it hones my skill of being in integrity with myself, and that is my self-worth. Nothing can take that away from me. If the company goes out, if I lose the big house that I have, if I lose the luxury items that I have it's okay. That's not my worth. Those are the goodies. And I enjoy my goodies even more because I didn't betray myself in the gaining of the goodies. And if it all goes away, it's okay. I've gained so much in the earning of the goodies. I've gained that thing that will never go away. Therefore, I'll just pull up my sleeves with my honey and we'll just go at it again. And that's okay. And it's nothing to do with fairness. It's the way of life. It's the yin and yang. You find your balance in there. And the balance, as all the great masters have shared with us, is not in the things, the impermanence of life. It's that deep solidity that you've created one step at a time. That's what life is about.
I love that. I love that. And that's come through in life experiences, and most of the time in the things that you at the time probably thought were like the worst thing that could possibly happen.
Correct. You know, it's like Keanu Reeves in a movie Matrix, like it goes
yeah.
It's that attitude toward challenging with self-doubts. Self-doubts, bring it on. Let me find out what I'm actually made of. Who am I?
Right.
And so any challenges, any struggle, self-doubt is there to reveal yourself to yourself. And it's fantastic. Right. And then there's the challenges and struggles that you didn't have to create, but because you were not as solid in your sense of self, you created that chaos that was unnecessary, but that's good too, because eventually it will lead you back to yourself. No matter what you do, you are designed to get back to yourself, which is beautiful. The same thing with health. No matter what you believe, your body will tell you the truth. So if eating raw works for you, it will let you know. If it doesn't work for you, it will let you know regardless of what you think is or isn't good for you. Beautiful miracle. You are inhabiting a miracle. It has everything to teach you who you are. So we are just learning about it.
I love it. Bio-individuality. Everyone's a little bit different. And
Correct.
I love that you use the word compassion, because this works for us. This is our lifestyle. If other people want to be a part of it, awesome. If they don't and something else works better, that's awesome too.
And if you beat yourself up and you don't have compassion for yourself, you will never allow yourself to get better because you're busy beating yourself up. You have to forgive your human nature. Right. You have to forgive it all. Your background, your childhood, the system itself, you have to let it go and forgive in order to give yourself a chance. If you're too busy being a victim, pointing the finger and beating yourself up, you'll never give yourself a chance to grow.
Right.
So compassion and forgiveness is crucial to self-growth, to worth, and to understanding it's not self-doubt, it's just the unveiling of yourself.
Love that. Last question. Is there a book that you'd recommend for anyone to read on this kind of stuff? Probably, I'm sure.
My God. Listen, if you're talking about...
I heard you talk about Eckhart Tolle. So
the Power of Now is Miriam Williamson. Is a beautiful woman who...
Return to Love, is that what that one's called?
I'm sorry?
That one is called Return to Love, I think I've heard.
Yeah, that's one of her many books. Yeah. Those are two more modern individual, but you know, Krishnamurti is an amazing person who came from India. A great story. He talked about all that stuff, but in a very specific way that appeals to some people and doesn't appeal to other people.
Right.
You know, there are, that's the thing though. Thank you for asking. I know I'm running late, but I will have to say that there's a million great books to read and to learn from. And God knows I read my share and I'm still indulging in some of them. It's like honey to my system. It just, it's lovely. It just feels good to read these things. It reminds you of the substance of life.
Right.
But nothing will matter if you don't put it to work.
Right.
You need to experience it. You need to pick one thing and apply it every day. So if it's compassion, pick that and apply that. You've got to own it. You've got to live it. You've got to experience it and use it. That is the only way to have a sense of growth and well-being and health. You can't just read and read and read and stay in your head. If you keep it in your head, it won't go the distance. It won't help you that much.
Right.
Or you may be a good talker. You can make lots of money doing that as well. But at the end of the day, how you feel is what makes life worth living.
I love that. Very different to conceptualize versus actually like put it into play.
And I think that's what the world is about now. We have done a lot of talking. Look at the world. Look at our politics. Look how we still think that we can go and kill others and expect them to say, oh, yeah, you are the best. Let me line up with what you think and what you want.
Yeah.
You know, there's a lot going on in the world that we have to step in action. So all the things that you and I are talking about, what are you doing about it? In your own little life, how do you go about implementing that compassion and extending that help to others? Because we need it. We need more than pretty talk. We need to get into it. We need to get dirty. And so when you get dirty, whether it's the bigger, you know, the things that we're discussing now, or even in you as a coach, how do you deal with that? How do you deal with the people saying, no, what's that? I don't understand. It's too expensive. I've got a better way. How do you deal with that? Do that. Like, who are you? Are you going to judge that person? Are you going to feel, oh, no, I can't? What you going to do about it? It's a beautiful thing. The world is set up to challenge you so you can grow. And the coaching business, because it is about people. It's about relationship. It's about teamwork. It's about communication. It's about a lot more than sound bites. So how are you going to deal with that human being in front of you?
Love it. Mm-hmm. Thank you so much. I know we went way over, 20 minutes over, but.
No, I love the fact that I could do it. It's, you know, this is why I want to do deep dive of chatting. I know that nowadays we're being trained to do everything in as short amount of time as possible. I just don't like it. Because I feel that most of the challenges in the world and even the way we feed ourselves comes from a lack of communication with oneself and others. And it's important to be able to put down these timelines and extend that and really, really talk to each other. So thank you for allowing me to do that. And I hope it resonated with you and somehow was enhancing for what you do with us as part of the Team Beachbody. I'm very grateful, very appreciative, and I hope we can keep on living up to those standards that we all established with each other.
Love it. I got unmuted everybody real quick. We're Team Boom. We do a little like 1, 2, 3 boom, like kind of like a cheer for a team at the end. Just to kind of thank. It's our little fun way of thanking you for taking the time.
I love that.
So all right, guys.
That's so nice.
Let's show her how much we appreciate her taking the time to share with us.
Thank you.
Boom on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Boom!
Boom! Boom! Thank you so much. That was amazing.
Cool. Thank you, guys. Bless you all.
Bye, guys.